General Hospital. The road to ruin, Britt's fate and Jason's breaking point. In the restless, shadow-drenched world of General Hospital, fate has a way of weaving danger into the most ordinary of gestures. What begins as a simple act of kindness, Jason Morgan helping Britt Westbourne buy a new car, quickly unravels into a nightmare that could rewrite both of their lives. Beneath the surface of Port Charles, something sinister hums like an unseen engine, waiting to strike when no one is ready. Britt had always carried the mark of misfortune. Her brilliance in the medical field often clashed with her recklessness, and though she tried to reform, trouble clung to her like a second skin. When Jason co-signed on her car loan, it seemed like a tender step forward, a sign that trust, fragile as glass, was finally being rebuilt. But in General Hospital, trust is often the most dangerous currency. As Britt slid behind the wheel of that gleaming new car, a subtle unease began to take root. Jason, ever the man of action but rarely of emotion, couldn't shake the feeling that something would go wrong. He even joked about driving her himself, but his words had the sharp edge of prophecy. The first cracks in their calm appeared almost instantly. The new car became a recurring motif in their conversations, a small, almost comedic reminder of Britt's clumsy driving habits. But soap operas are masters of disguise. What looks like humor often hides the foreshadowing of tragedy. When Jason handed over the keys later that evening, the gesture carried the weight of something larger: permission, fate, surrender. The headlights flared against the dark road, and behind the laughter and warmth, danger waited like a silent passenger. Britt's growing involvement in the research once helmed by Professor Henry Dalton placed her under a microscope she didn't fully understand. Her ascension in the lab wasn't just a professional opportunity, it was a threat to powerful people who thrived in the shadows. The whispers of corporate espionage, scientific manipulation, and blackmail began circling her, and Jason's instincts screamed that she was stepping into something far more perilous than she realized. Yet Britt, driven by a mixture of ambition and defiance, ignored the warnings. She had clawed her way back from disgrace before, and she wasn't about to let anyone stop her this time. But danger in Port Charles rarely announces itself. It seeps into the mundane, the hum of a car engine, the faint smell of gasoline, a missing maintenance record. Jason's suspicions deepened when he heard that Jens Sidwell, a man with powerful connections and a cold interest in Dalton's research, had been seen near the hospital. Sidwell had made veiled threats before, and now his control over the project seemed absolute. Britt's refusal to comply with his guidelines could have consequences, the kind that are disguised as accidents. Meanwhile, another story was re-emerging from the ashes: Nathan West. His mysterious return had already shaken the town, but the circumstances of his car crash remained murky. He remembered almost nothing from the past 7 years, only fragments of faces and flashes of metal and fire. The more people tried to piece together his story, the stranger it became. His accident didn't look like an accident at all. The brakes had been tampered with, the road markings altered, and the timing too perfect to be coincidence. What if Britt's car, her new car, was about to follow the same fate? Jason's nightmares began long before any siren wailed. He saw twisted metal, the cold gleam of headlights cutting through smoke, Britt's name echoing through his mind. His protective instinct warred with his fear of getting too close, of caring too deeply. He had buried too many people already. But Britt wasn't like the others. She fought back, mocked danger, laughed in its face. That was what drew him in. It was also what terrified him most. As the days went on, the signs multiplied. Britt's car stalled twice in 1 week. Her dashboard lights flickered inexplicably. She joked about cheap wiring, but Jason didn't laugh. He checked the car himself, but the problem seemed elusive, like something or someone was making sure the danger stayed just out of sight. When Jason heard that Sidwell had a habit of correcting mistakes through quiet, irreversible means, his dread turned into fury. He confronted Sidwell's men, but they offered only smug denials and warnings wrapped in politeness. Everything came to a head one stormy night. Britt left the hospital late, exhausted and distracted, her mind still tangled in research notes and unsent messages to Jason. The rain fell in sharp silver lines as she turned onto the deserted road leading out of town. The car radio flickered, then died. Her hands gripped the wheel tighter. Somewhere deep inside, she knew something was wrong. The steering felt heavier than usual, the brakes a fraction too soft. Her heart raced as the car picked up speed down the slick pavement. Back at his apartment, Jason felt a wave of unease he couldn't explain. He grabbed his jacket and keys, a soldier answering a call he didn't understand. Moments later, the police scanner erupted with the words that froze his blood: single-car collision on County Road 14. The vehicle description matched Britt's. The scene was chaos. The car had slammed into a guardrail, twisted metal gleaming under flashing lights. Jason pushed past officers, his face pale, his hands trembling. Britt was alive, but barely. Her pulse fluttered like a broken wing. Paramedics worked frantically, their shouts blending with the distant rumble of thunder. As Jason knelt beside her, the realization hit with brutal clarity: he might have just lost the one person who could still make him feel human. The investigation that followed was murky, filled with contradictions and silence. The brake line showed signs of tampering, but no fingerprints were found. Dalton's lab files went missing the same night. Sidwell vanished overseas. Nathan's fragmented memories began to return, revealing connections between the lab experiments, brain programming, and a list of subjects, Britt's name among them. Jason's grief hardened into purpose. He dug deeper, connecting the dots between Nathan's crash and Britt's accident. He discovered that Dalton's final project wasn't medical at all. It was military, an experimental protocol designed to control human behavior. Nathan had been one of the first test subjects, his memory wiped to hide the truth. Britt, unknowingly, had inherited the research, and with it, a death sentence. But the more Jason uncovered, the clearer it became that the real enemy wasn't just Sidwell or Dalton. It was a network of power that thrived on chaos and control. Britt's accident was only one move in a much larger game, one that could engulf everyone he cared about. As she lay in the hospital bed, fragile and scarred, Jason realized he had a choice: walk away before the darkness consumed him, or step into it to protect her, no matter the cost. The story of Britt and Jason now teeters on the edge of tragedy and revelation. Her accident was not an isolated event, it was the spark that will ignite the next phase of Port Charles's most dangerous conspiracy. Nathan's memory may hold the key, but every truth uncovered demands a sacrifice. Jason knows this better than anyone. And as he stands at Britt's bedside, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest, he silently vows that whoever did this will pay. Because in General Hospital, nothing happens by chance. Every accident hides intent. Every rescue is a test of love. And sometimes, the greatest danger isn't the road ahead, but the past that refuses to die. How far will Jason go to protect Britt? And how many more lives will be lost before the truth finally comes to light?